So question 23, let's think about this for just a second. Given y equals x divided by x minus 1, and x is greater than 1. So if we just focus on this right here, this is saying we're taking a number and dividing it by 1 less than itself. So no matter what number we insert for x, so if we insert 9 for x, the bottom would be 1 less, 9 divided by 8. So two things come to mind immediately when we see this. Given that x has to be a positive number because it's greater than 1, this is always going to be positive, no matter what number we insert for x. So it can't be a and it can't be b. And then secondly, if the top number, no matter what we pick, is always one greater than the bottom number, well then this fraction is always going to be greater than 1. You only get a decimal that's less than 1 if the numerator is smaller than the denominator, and that can't happen in this case. 24, the set of all positive integers that are divisible by both 15 and 35 is infinite. What is the least positive integer in this set? So quickly, 5 is a trick question. 5 is not divisible by 15 and 35. To be divisible by 15 and 35, it's got to be greater than that. And I can do 50 in my head pretty quickly as well. 15 does not go into 50 evenly. The rest of these will need to break out a calculator. So 105, and we want to work our way smallest to largest because we want the least positive integer in this problem. So 105 divided by 15 is 7, and 105 divided by 35, I think that's 3. Yeah, so that's it. 105 is the least positive number that is divisible by 15 and 35. 25, this is a rare case where you actually do need to read the description because they tell us AB is congruent to AC, and typically that's marked in the diagram, but it's not here. So those two sides are congruent, which means that angles opposite those sides are going to be congruent. So that's this angle and this angle. So we know there's 180 degrees inside a triangle. So 180 minus the known angle is going to be 122. So these two angles here are congruent and they add up to 122. So essentially the algebra we're doing here is something plus something equals 122. You can probably do this without setting up the equation, but if we divide both sides by 2, we get 61. So that's the measure of angle B and the angle C, which is what they wanted here. About 1.48 times 10 to the 8 square kilometers of Earth's surface is land. The rest is water, represented by that number. If a returning space capsule lands at a random point on Earth's surface, which of the following is the best estimate of the probability that the space capsule will land in water? So when we're doing probability, I always like to come up with the total number of outcomes first, the sample space. In this case, they can land on land or they can land on water. So the denominator would be these two numbers, the sum of these two numbers, because this represents all the total surface of the Earth. Now we want the probability the space capsule lands in water. So this one right here, 3.63 times 10 to the 8, that is our chances of landing in water. We'll let the calculator go from here. So we're going to do alpha y equals 1. Set up a fancy fraction, and then just type in the rest of this problem. There are other ways to do it, but this probably about the quickest. So 0.71, that's equivalent to G 71%. And actually, what we could have done to make this a little easier, I just noticed all of these terms have a 10 to the 8th in common. So the 10 to the 8th is just going to divide out of all three of the terms. So it ends up just being 3.63 divided by 1.48 plus 3.63. You'll get the same answer. Save a little bit of time typing in the calculator if you recognize that. And finally, 27. On the first 7 statistics tests of the semester, Jamal scored all those numbers. The mean, median, and mode of these scores were 79, that's the mean, median of 80, and mode of 80. On the 8th test, Jamal scored a 90. How do the mean, median, and mode of all 8 of his scores compare to the mean, median, and mode of all of his first 7 scores? So first off, the mean, that's easy. He scored a 90, so mean is just the average. So since this is our mean of 79, and he scored above the average, that number is going to go up. So unfortunately, we can only rule out answer choice A. So B, C, D, or E. Second easiest might be mode, though. Mode, remember, is the number that shows up the most. Mode, most. So what number showed up the most in this problem previously? Looks like 80. 80 shows up twice. So if he scores a 90 and we include 90, in fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually write 90 right here. If we put a 90 in there, does that change the mode? No. The mode is still 80 because 80 still shows up the most. So the mode has to be equal. So it's not B, it's not D. So we need to just check the median, which remember is the middle number. The median was 80. So now the middle number, if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 numbers, that means the middle number, here's 4 here and 4 here. The middle number is the average of the 2 middle numbers. And in this case, our 2 middle numbers are 80 and 80, and the average, if we average 80 and 80, we still get 80. So the median would also stay equal, so the answer to 27 is E.